Welcome to Lecture 18, Adding Notes of Figuration or Embellishment. So what are notes of figuration, and what does this embellishment mean? Well, usually it's a non-chord tone that can do one or more of the following things. You can embellish or decorate a note. So if I could have a G, play an upper neighbor, and it decorates or kind of enhances the note. It can create rhythmic interest and independence in a line, inserting notes between chords. So if I had two chords, and I want to make it more interesting, going from one chord to the next, I can use all sorts of devices to make that much more rhythmically interesting. And then that obviously adds consonance or dissonance to a moving line. And then the other thing is to smooth out voice leading when connecting two chords. I could have two chords that are just kind of chunking along, and this smooths out the sound between them. So here's the list of figuration types for this course. Passing tone, neighbor tones, which you have used, all of these in counterpoint, appoggiatura, an escape tone, sometimes called an échappé tone, and using the French pronunciation, an anticipation, a suspension, a retardation, a cambiata, and syncopation. Let's go over each one of these. So passing tone is nothing more than a note that passes between two pitches. Now you're really familiar with that, and it's stepwise in both directions. So it leaves by step and continues by step. It's a really easy way to connect notes, especially in an arpeggiated chord. So if notes are a third apart, passing tone is really very effective. Then we can have a neighbor tone, which you've used before. So in this case, you could have an upper neighbor tone or a lower neighbor tone. I could go the other direction. And you could have a double neighbor. So that simply means that there's a note a step above and a step below the note that's being ornamented or embellished. So we have the two E's, the quarter note and the half note. The F goes above the E directly by step, and the D is a direct step below the E. So you add both of them. Very, very effective way of ornamenting or embellishing that particular change. Then you have an appoggiatura, that's a leap up and then a step down in the opposite direction. So if I have this particular piece, so it leaps up a fifth, down a second, up a fourth, down a second. That's an appoggiatura. The opposite direction is an escape tone. So you step up, then you leap down in the opposite direction. So it would sound like this. Very, very effective for breaking up a line that's going in one direction. And anticipation simply means the note of resolution of the resolution chord occurs early. So if I have this in the counterpoint, instead of I just play the C, in this case, a half beat early. You could do it as a quarter note. And that anticipation kind of gives us a sense of what the chord of resolution is going to be. Then, of course, suspensions. You have 4 3s, 2 1s, 6 5s, all kinds of wonderful options for this. And of course, this just means one note is suspended over. That can be tied, or it can be played just like this one is. So this really wants to resolve to the octaves, but we're going to give it a cadence. And it's very, very effective. And it gives us a little bit of syncopation, which makes the line more interesting. And then we have retardation. A retardation is kind of like a suspension, but in this case, the bass changes. Well, the upper two voices don't move until a beat or two later. Beethoven. Do that one again. Beautiful moment of dissonance to consonance at the end. Then we have the cambiata. That's 4-note motion, down a step, down a skip, and then up a step. So in this case, so let's say the line originally was a half note. There was an E and a C on the bottom, C in the bottom, E in the top, and was going to land on a D. Maybe the next chord. Well, putting the cambiata in makes it interesting. So the cambiata is really very effective. It's really good at cadences. It's really nice if you have like a whole note that's in position. And then, of course, syncopations. So here's a good example. The lyric is, baby, baby, baby. Well, the chords don't change. Listen to this. So we get, instead of, it goes. So the chord changes an eighth note later. But the idea of the syncopation, which is you know well, is to tie something across a bar line usually, or to tie it in the middle of the bar so it's upbeat emphasis. The emphasis is on the wrong syllable. So here's a 4-step process for adding notes of figuration. And I think you'll find this of great help. Step 1, realize the figured bass and half notes. So here is the figured bass that has been given, a 1, 3, 2, 6, 6, 2, 6, 5, 7, 1. And so I have realized it this way in SATB style. Now that's kind of like doing a first species counterpoint. It's very homophonic and it's in blocks. We've been doing this a lot lately. Step 2 is you're going to choose several figuration options. Now you can use as many as you wish. And the neat thing about that is that you're not really stuck with too many, but you can look at the way the voice leading works and say, okay, I've got an E to an E, so what would sound really good as an ornament to that? Maybe an upper neighbor or a lower neighbor going from a note right back to a note. An anticipation might work really well at a cadential point, and so on. So you get to play around with this. Now on your assignment, you'll be given a specific number that you have to demonstrate with a chorale that will be given to you. And you'll just be given the figured bass and you have to go through all these steps. Step 3, after you choose what you're going to do, is apply them. Write them in. So you can see here's the original on top, and you notice it goes 1 to 3. Well, I used upper neighbor, then I used 2 passing tones, and I used in the double neighbor here. Then I used a suspension to resolve that first bar on the 4th beat. And then look at all the possibilities. The sound you get is pretty cool. Listen to this. That's still the basic chordal outline. It's still, the half notes are alive in there, but they've been ornamented. They've been embellished with the notes of figuration. Then you can go one step further if you like. This is step 4. It's optional, but you can add further rhythmic refinements. Now what I'm going to do is just add some eighth notes in. And this gives me a chance to put a cambiata at the end. It gives me a chance to use some more neighbor motion. So I had the 2 upper neighbors here, and I decided to put in a lower neighbor there. And listen to how this sounds with the refinements. That's our basic chorale. It was this. But then notes of figuration were added to give us this. And so that's the whole fun. So for your assignment, all you have to do is see Canvas. And thanks for watching.